Good evening. Welcome to Cryptid Crunch. I am your host, Willow Schuyler. I have two guests, I have my two co-hosts, which is a very rare occasion, but it'll not just be me and Keisha tonight. And can't wait to get this show started. All right, so tonight we are talking about invisible friends, and how I know it's normal. I'm aware that it's normal for kids to have invisible friends, but at what point is it normal for an invisible friend to turn into a ghost, or be more of a figment of your imagination? With me tonight, as always, is Keisha Acuff. Definitely not a figment of my imagination, but
are you sure?
At least I hope not. And
everybody
Johnny,
needs your friends.
Johnny, and not a figment of our imagination at all, but this is a rare occasion that you get to join us.
Well, it's a rare occasion that I'm not hanging out with the ghosts in downtown Nashville on a Sunday night, but I actually got today off. Shocking. So here I am with you fine ladies. Good evening, Multiverse. Hey there, friends and foes. I am super happy to be here. And you know what, though, Willow? I have absolutely no experience of which to speak on this topic.
But I don't feel like I have very much experience with this. Okay, growing up, I have, created certain scenarios, storylines, and it helped me write stuff down. But Keisha, you know firsthand what it's like to have invisible friends, and I hope you're not too embarrassed to talk about them.
Well, before Keisha launches into her 4-hour long story, see, when I was a kid, I didn't have invisible friends, but I did have voices playing around in my head. And here's what I did. I used to carry around this suitcase, this briefcase that my dad gave me, full of costume pieces, superhero costumes, capes and masks and, different colored shirts. And I would become different characters, playing superheroes in the neighborhood, or just randomly because that was my thing. But, Willow, when you suggested this topic, I was like, is this a big problem? Is this something that people are investigating? Because, I'm into cryptids. And the reason we do this show on Sunday nights is because when I was a kid, Sunday nights meant the show In Search Of, hosted by Leonard Nimoy, and investigating cryptids and UFOs and paranormal activity. And so it never occurred to me that imaginary friends could be in the realm of the paranormal until you suggested it. And apparently you found a lot of info, and Keisha, as always, who has lived the most bizarre life of anyone I know, has a lot to contribute to this topic.
Well, one of the things that has always interested me is the spirit realm, and I've always wondered, like when Krayley was chatting with us, and they got into both Keisha and Krayley got into the subject of invisible friends. My brain started to wander, like, what would be the difference between seeing, having an invisible friend that your brain just created, or a spirit that, everybody thinks is your invisible friend, but really it's, not from this earth?
And I think Keisha has something to say about both of those.
I feel like you're calling me out here.
I am a little bit, Keisha, because you've admitted many times that the rugrat at your feet right now, Dolores Claiborne, no, that Dolores sees ghost people.
So this just happened not 30 minutes ago. She was like, "Mommy, can you come into the bathroom with me? Because if I go into the blood in the kitchen, I'll die." And I was like, "Oh."
Yep.
So I guess I'm going into.
No, don't talk about that.
Oh, don't talk about that.
That makes me die.
That makes you
Dolores,
sad. Okay.
that's what this show is about.
So I was like, okay. So I got up and took her to the bathroom, which I have no idea what she was talking about, but I need a drink.
But haven't you told us that she sees people in the backyard and in other
our
parts of the
closet.
house? Yeah. Do you
But
think
yeah.
they're imaginous? Do you think that she's imagining it, or that she's actually seeing something present,
I don't know. Like,
or a mix?
since before she even knew what certain things were, like when she was, I want to say it was right after we moved into this house. So she was like maybe 2-3 years old, and she was snuggling me on the couch, and she just looked over to she was snuggling me on my chair, and she looked over to the couch, and she was just like waving, and it was, I guess she might have been a little bit older because she'd just learned to talk. And I said, "What are you doing, honey?" And she said, "I'm saying bye-bye to the guy on the couch." And I said, "What guy on the couch?" She goes, "There was a guy sitting on the couch, but he has to go now." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Would you like to tell them something for a second?" Here.
I want to boop them.
Oh,
You want to boop us? Oh,
after the show, okay?
I have those.
If you guys can't tell, my husband is on alternating schedules right now, so
What? Something just happened with your sound,
I
Keisha.
think your headphone just.
that's because my
Unplugged.
daughter unplugged me so that she could say hi to you.
Hi, Dolores.
Hi. Look at that.
Here, you use those. Sorry if the sound quality went down, but
Why is it not working?
oh, because the volume is off. Sorry, guys. So my husband is on alternating shifts right now. So, like during the shows now, I have her instead of my husband being able to watch her.
That's okay. It's entertaining with her around.
It is. But yeah, since Dolores was basically old enough to speak, she's been telling me that there's somebody living in our closet. There's somebody living in her bedroom. She once told me that my grandma was upstairs. My
Oh.
grandma's been dead since before Dolores was even born. She's the one that Dolores is named after. So
So we kind of have a Sixth Sense situation with your daughter, who she may not be actually making up the things that she sees.
I really hope she is, though.
Well, so let's talk about that. So, Keisha, you've told us off air and in other conversations online that you had imaginary friends growing up. Several of our other hosts on the Cereal Box Network have confessed to that. George Bueller said he had an imaginary friend named Tommy, and of course Kelly Getner and Crayley Van Est have both said that they had imaginary friends. Willow, did you?
No, I kind of created like scenarios, like with superheroes and other comic and cartoon
And
characters.
would you
but
act it out kind of, or
Yeah.
like imagine that you were in the story? See, that was me.
yeah, that was me more so. I can't say that I had an imaginary friend per se, but yeah, it was conversations happened, and my siblings had walked by wondering, who are you talking to? Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be talking to my characters.
But you were
so
you were
loud.
acting out stories that you were imagining, and yeah, I think that's a little bit different. Now, my grandmother Josephine, um, she was Romani, a Russian gypsy, and they emigrated here to the U.S. And in the later couple years of her life, I remember we would go visit her, and we would be having a conversation, and she would turn to the empty chair beside her and say, Murph, nobody cares about that. Or, oh, quit babbling about that, Murph. Something like that. She was talking to her brother Murphy, who had died maybe 40 years before. And, she was someone who saw things and knew things that nobody else saw or knew. So, I don't know. I don't think she was imagining Murphy being there. I mean, it's possible because I remember it more pronounced after she had had a stroke. Is maybe, her brain chemistry was altered by the stroke, or maybe because she's getting closer to that veil, she's seeing, people cross over. I mean, today, when I'm really stressed out and things are really tough for me, I will smell my mother's cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
So is that I don't think I'm imagining that.
I'm sure you're not, because I smell my grandfather's cologne often. The smell of smoke is very prevalent every so often in this house, and I don't I need to wash some of my curtains, but yeah, it's a common thing where I'll just be like, why does it smell like smoke all of a sudden? Yeah, but
So Keisha,
seeing as when that happens to me, there's literally a fire in my house. But, it's okay. We're fine. Go on, Johnny.
well, so my question for you, Keisha, is you said that you had imaginary friends.
I actually made up my own imaginary friends. I don't remember having imaginary friends, but I was one of those people who would make things up to scare the poo out of my friends.
So you knew that your imaginary friends were fake and just out of your imagination.
They are convinced, though, that they are real.
oh,
Wait, who's convinced? Your characters or your friends? Yeah.
Other people. So the reason why they are convinced is apparently I manifested them so well in my head that they could move things. So when I was living in a basement, and it was a completely unfinished basement, still, cracks in the walls, water on the floor. I was
Like you do.
I was sleeping on an old couch that who knows how long it's been there. It's probably from the 70s. But I was down there, and there's these doors, these wooden doors that go into the other part of the basement. So it's creepy. First you come down the stairs, over here is the wooden doors that go outside, but then there's also a set of wooden doors that go into an even creepier unfinished part of the basement, where all of the heating water mechanisms and stuff are.
And dead people?
Probably. It was wood floor, or it was dirt floors down there. But I would be completely content down there like a normal human being, obviously. And my little brother loved going down there, and he would bug the poo out of me. He would be like, hey, 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 you want to do this? Hey. And I was like, okay, so I needed to do something to dissuade him from ever wanting to go down there again. So I made up these imaginary friends called Freddie and George, who, you know, I don't remember how exactly I described them at the time, but like tall, lengthy, creepy looking, pale creature type things. Freddie and George, they were human, but they ate little children. And they lived on the other side of those doors. And if my little brother came down there without me down there to tell him it was okay to be down there, Freddie and George would eat him. Because I'm a nice sister.
But see, I feel like that's every big sister telling their siblings not to do something.
Our neighbor up the street growing up had the exact same story, but turns out he was trying to keep us from going down in the basement because he did not want us and his daughters discovering his stash of Playboy magazines.
Okay.
Mine was just to keep my little annoying brother out of my room, which was essentially an unfinished creepy basement. You know, normal things children go through, right? Okay, so that being said, I continued on with the narrative. And I took Freddie and George like everywhere with me. I would sit there and I'd just randomly go, hey, Freddie, hey, George. And I just kept it going. And then my family moved a lot. Like, I'm talking, like, in the middle of the night, I would get a look and, hey, we've been in this area for a couple weeks, a couple months. How do you like it? Do you want to leave? Or just, hey, let's get in the car and go. So that is what we would do. And so we ended up moving. Oh, sorry, guys. My daughter is singing over here. So we ended up. Okay, long story short, like extremely long story short, my mom was like, where are we going? And I said, I don't know, follow the number 11. We ended up breaking down in a different state and all this other stuff. And then somehow we ended up in West Virginia. While we were in West Virginia, I moved out of my mom's house. And I moved in with my youth pastor and his wife because I was still a teenager at the time. That kind of stuff. And one of my friends from church her name is Brandy. I'm still good friends with her. But
Why, do I have to hear the start?
But very cool. So, oh, 1 second, baby. Mommy's on her live. Sorry, guys. But one night she had invited me over to her house to have a sleepover. And so I went and had the sleepover, and we were the only two home at the time. Mommy's gonna... Oh, here. Okay. So we were the only ones that were home. And I was like, hey, do you want to meet my friends Freddie and George? And so I said, okay, we have to turn off the lights. And we kind of, like, we got on the floor of her bedroom, and we turned off the lights, and we were sitting there, and I was like, okay, Freddie and George don't really like to be seen, so we have to turn off the lights, that kind of stuff. So we turn off the lights, we sit on the floor, and we're holding hands, and I'm like seance-wise, and I'm like, okay, Freddie, George, my friend Brandy wants to meet you. And I sat there and I started asking questions and stuff like that. And when I started talking to them and telling her about them, from the other side of the room where nobody was at, it was over by her closet, a bottle of pop, or actually a can of pop, flew off of her dresser and landed in the middle of where we were sitting.
Whoa.
And she freaked out horribly, got up, turned off the lights, and she tried reenacting the whole thing and tried to figure out how in the world that could get from there to there without spilling and everything like that. So she is convinced until this day that Freddie and George are real, and she still, like, if we have any sort of conversation, she'll be like, hey, can you tell Freddie and George I say hi and please don't kill me? So apparently I played them off so well that they were able to move things.
Interesting.
Well, speaking of that, we flashed this comment on the screen real quick, but Molly Daniels said she told her sister the boogeyman lived in her closet, and to this day, her sister will still keep her closet door closed. You know what? I don't like my closet door being open at night. And you know, when I was a little kid, I hated the closet door being open because I believed that the Wolfman lived in the closet and would come and get me. The mummy lived under my bed. So I was afraid to, you know, get out of bed in the middle of the night because he'd reach out and grab me. But the Wolfman was in the closet, and the closet door had to be closed. And, you know, that was my, you know, irrational fear of the dark. But today,
the mummy had quite the distinct walk, and it creeped me out as a kid. So,
well, to this day, I'm still not comfortable at night in a room with an open closet door. I want it closed.
I think that's pretty much everybody with an irrational fear of not so much the, well, I guess it could be
over here
irrational fear of the dark.
An unfinished closet that's just a dark hole full of open wood area and holes going down into the basement. I feel like, oh, honey, you do not want one of these. So I am eating clean.
Oh, give her a little crumb.
give her one and let's see what happens.
Would you like to try one?
No, I said I went to it.
We're a bad influence on you, Keisha. I don't think you need to listen to us.
And Molly says about the closet door, Molly Daniels said, I had to keep mine closed because of the tree ring pattern in the wood. It looked like eyes staring at me. So mine was open.
Wow.
Wait, what? The eyes were staring at you, so your eyes were open unless the door was closed. Okay, I got it. I think that's what she meant. Molly Daniels is a writer. And Eli Cash says about your story, Keisha, that willing things and people into existence is quite the phenomenon. We learned about that a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the Tommyknockers, right?
Yeah.
When you believe something so strongly that it becomes reality. What do they call that? Tulpas? Am I remembering that right?
That sounds about right.
We got a ton of comments, Willow.
We always
was
have a
seeing
ton of
that,
comments like this.
But more so, I think this episode, because I wish I could have Carl. I should have asked Carl to be on the show so that I could pick his brain about this. At what point does, you know, it's cute being a kid and seeing invisible friends, but at what point does that go into being schizophrenic?
Well, so I've said for years that really good character actors have a degree of DID, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. And sometimes I've thought maybe I should, you know, be diagnosed. Because when I play a character on stage, there are times that I don't remember being on stage. I don't remember what happened. And it's not like I blacked out.
You're not just black, yeah.
No. The character takes over so completely that John doesn't remember what they did on stage.
Hmm.
It's not often, but it happens. And so I think that there's probably kids who have more than one imaginary friend growing up, and they really believe that they're real. Maybe there's a undiagnosed multiple personalities disorder there.
And Carl did answer. It depends on the person and if they can still live a good life. And most know that the imaginary friend is in their head. That sounds like something that I would definitely have troubles fighting against, though, would be, the reality of the person that I'm talking to, and then everybody telling me that they don't exist. That would be a huge struggle for me. But yeah, I guess with in the case of A Beautiful Mind, knowing that the people that you're seeing aren't aging, that
So
would be an indicator.
Normal one now. I'm the
I'm
normal
sorry?
one. I said
You're the
I'm-
normal one.
Like, I knew these people were like fake and made up in my brain. Apparently, we had a comment. I don't know if you flashed it up yet, but Dan said, "I never thought I'd see the day when John made Keisha look normal." I'll take it. I had to stop eating my caramel chocolate for you guys, okay? By the way, pregnant, so I'm eating caramel chocolate and flaming hot Cheetos like the normal pregnant lady I'm supposed to be.
You know what? I think I would eat that combination any time of the day.
People say that pregnant women eat weird things. I ate weird shit. Sorry if I don't like. Pardon my language. I ate weird stuff when I was a kid, and I probably would still eat it. I loved pickles and peanut butter.
There's a mom group that I'm in on Facebook, and somebody posted a picture of a peanut butter sandwich with pickles stuck in it, and I was like, I like eating pickles and peanut butter sandwiches at the same time, but I don't think I would go that far. That's just unstable. No. So I'm going to throw this out there while also saying that for dinner tonight, I had one of those little cups of vanilla ice cream with the chocolate swirl in it, and I also had a fruit cup. So, I mean, I honestly have no room to speak right now, so.
So Dan Hollyfield just posted an interesting comment. He said DID could go a long way to explain why some of the characters I write, Dan Hollyfield is an author, are so memorable for my readers. I make them seem real. And Dan, I'm going to go so far as to say that I believe that there's probably some truth to that. The same way that when I play a character on stage, sometimes they take over completely. I've got several books with characters that I've created, and there are times when those characters absolutely take over and write and speak for themselves. And there was one place in my book Nightreich where one of the characters said something, and it was the last sentence of the chapter, and it took me completely by surprise. I had no idea he was who he was going to say he was. I had no idea that character was going to say what he said. Completely took over. So I think authors, anyone in the creative arts, writers, actors, musicians, artists, probably have some, and really good ones I'm talking about, probably have some degree of that DID, multiple personalities, in some form or fashion.
I'm screwed.
And I feel like that's what makes actors like Jim Carrey so good, is because they will become the characters that they are.
Well,
for that time.
Yeah, well, with Jim Carrey though, it messed him up.
Well, when he did Andy Kaufman, the story of Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he still talks with Andy. He's admitted that he can't get rid of Andy. You know, Heath Ledger playing the Joker led him to take drugs to suppress that character in his head, and that killed him. And you know, we see, you know, I think great character actors like Johnny Depp and Val Kilmer, I think they Robin Williams, I think they all probably have that multiple personality thing going on in some degree or fashion.
And speaking of like Hollywood, like movies, I didn't take much into account that there would be a lot of movies based on the whole imaginary friend ideology. But yes, one movie that comes to mind from my childhood is Drop Dead Fred.
This is actually one of my favorite movies from when I was little.
Oh yeah,
because I aspired to be Fred. No joke. Like, I thought about going out and stepping in poo and just bringing it inside and go poo. So, you know, if you
see,
guys...
I think everybody kind of has that, and isn't that kind of the voice in your head that says, you know, some people have a more destructive voice in their head that tells them to, you know, do bad things, but you know, do stuff like, oh, you should totally step in poo and drag it across the carpet, or, you know, you should cut your finger off while you're cooking. No, please don't do that. Actually, I'm not saying for you to actually do that, but just there is that voice. I'm wondering if, you know, there is that disassociation that voice becomes a real person.
I like how this has become like a psychology episode. Like, is it an imaginary
this is stuff
friend
that I'm curious about, though.
Disorder?
Well,
I like it.
But I happen to have this theory that a lot of what people call ghosts, or a lot of the paranormal experiences that they report, are a manifestation of this imaginary friend or this alternate personality, this alter, or in, you know, Carl's words, a tulpas, where they speak it into reality, or they imagine it into reality. So I think there's a lot of interconnectivity here.
And I mean, could we also say that a lot of cryptids are like intertwined with our imagination? It's creatures that we see, and it's just our imaginations playing tricks on us, but we give them such, you know, a yearning for being real that we actually create the character.
So just a couple years ago, I don't know when it came out, but that long, lengthy dude without a face that lives out in the forest that you can't look at, or else, like, the more you look at it, it gets closer or something like that. So I guess 2 guys in college actually said, hey, we made this up for a creative project in school.
Yeah, Slenderman.
Slenderman. That's what it was. But it got so out of hand that now people are having sightings. There's videos, there's this, there's that. And they're like, I don't know, did they manifest a real Slenderman just by going, hey, this is the thing? And then all of a sudden,
it became so troublesome that 2 kids had actually killed one of their friends.
Because they said Slenderman had told them to.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, there's a lot of, like, how far can you take it things, because a lot of things could just be made up, and then to the point where so many people believed it existed that it actually started existing.
But I mean, there's also the aspect of, you know, being mentally distraught. to the point where you're convincing other people that you see these things, and there are people who will aren't of the right frame of mind that will go along with it until it's too late.
So that's the basis of a lot of cults, right? A lot of cults are based on one person's make believe reality, but they're so charismatic and they believe it so completely that other people are forced to go along. They can't help it. They have to, and
Yeah.
it becomes real to them too. But I have this question, and I'm just wondering. I'm wondering this out loud. Do you think that these imaginary friends or these personality disorders or spirit attachments, whatever we want to call them, do you think they are part and parcel to some kind of emotional trauma?
You know what? I do believe that. I do believe that because we do see it in or in the case of someone like me who grew up in an abusive family and moved around quite a bit. They have a tendency to grasp onto their imagination, and that keeps them from kind of keeps them out of trouble, but at the same time can cause trouble. But Keisha, with the way you grew up, you having the actual experience with your imaginary friends, did they help in a way to for your escape of your life, or did they end up somewhat causing more trouble along the way?
So for me, in a weird way, they kind of took over role of, I want to say, my protectors almost. Like, yeah, they were creepy tall guys that ate children, but like nothing bad would happen to me while they were around. But I knew that they were made up in my brain. Like, I made them up to just scare my little brother and my friends. But like, I don't know, they would always give me like that little sense of, like I said earlier, I would just be like, hey Freddie, hey George. And when I didn't have anybody else to talk to, I guess they kind of just were there. If I needed them, I could make them up in my brain and say some ridiculous story about something that was happening or something like that. But then again, as with like half the people in the comments and half the people we know, I am a writer and I like to make up stories about different people and different situations and different things like that. So I think it was just part of who I was growing up. And I've been writing as far as I could actually, like, if I knew how to use a pen and paper, I wrote things down. So I have stories all the way from when I was a little kid about different weird things and stuff like that that would pop into my head. And I guess it was just, I don't know. I'm not going to say it was a form of escapism, but that could be argued depending on who you talk to, Carl.
They definitely helped fill a need of friendship when you were lacking the ability to find friends or or socialize.
It was also my way of kind of pushing people away. Like I said, it was literally to get my little brother out of my basement. But I also used it in other circumstances where I just didn't want to have constant I don't know, like people would want to be friends with me and stuff like that. And I would be like, only if you're friends with my imaginary friends, Freddie and George, who eat children and blah, 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 blah. They
It was a
normally
protection. It was a protection thing for you, though, because you wanted to protect your privacy.
surprisingly, that's not the thing that it was for me. For me, I was more or less protecting other people because I knew that no matter where I was not there for long. So I didn't want to form these special bonds with people that really wanted to get to know me and be friends with me and then just disappear in the middle of the night for them. I have literal friends that have no idea what happened to me because I disappeared in the middle of the night, and it was, some of these times were before internet was a big thing, so not everybody had Facebook and not everybody had all this other stuff that you could just like look them up and be like, "Hey, they're just in a different state." I would just disappear on people. So I didn't like people getting close to me. So I think that's why I kind of created Freddie and George, is because people would look at me and be like, "Oh, are we sure we want to be friends with that weirdo?" um,
It where is it? It's a cope. Yeah, Carl mentions that it was definitely a coping mechanism as well. You creating your invisible friends.
So I've been watching Doom Patrol on HBO Max,
Mhm.
and two of the main characters in Doom Patrol. One is a character they call Crazy Jane. She's got 64 different personalities, each with a different superpower. And these personalities were created to protect the girl the girl named Kay, to protect her psyche from the abuse of her father. And this whole show deals with, what happens when she doesn't need those personalities anymore. Do they vanish? Do they die? Do they diminish? And then there's another character named Dorothy, not Dolores, Dorothy, who she manifests her imaginary characters in very destructive ways. The Candlemaker, this giant, like Wendigo kind of creature, a giant spider, and they come and help her and protect her and fight for her. And so it's been very present in my mind watching the show over the last couple of weeks that you know there are people out there who those characters are based on real people. But I did a little research while we were on air, and I had no idea there were so many movies about imaginary characters.
I know. That's just it. We haven't. We can talk all night about like Donnie Darko,
Yeah.
The
So
Shining,
right.
Fight
I,
Club.
and those are the top three, the top three that most people know. But like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nicolas Cage, he has an imaginary character that he interacts with. Play It Again, Sam, a Woody Allen film, and he imagines, um, you know, Humphrey Bogart being in the room with him. True Romance. Um, Elvis Presley becomes an imaginary friend or an imaginary character to the characters there. And of course, you mentioned Drop Dead Fred, which I've never seen. Can you believe that? I
You
may
need to go
need to.
see it.
Yeah, I need to put that on my list. A Monster Calls, which is a gorgeous movie, by the way. It's all about Connor, this kid Connor, creating a giant monster, almost like Groot, to help him face bullies at school. Um, and then you mentioned A Beautiful Mind, which I also haven't seen, but now I want to. Um, now I want to. The Shining. I didn't. I never thought about it before. I've seen it, but it's been a long time. Tony, never appears in physical form. And he's manifested by Danny waggling his finger. The most famous, though, and maybe the most influential to pop culture, was the Jimmy Stewart 1950 film Harvey,
Mm.
about a giant bunny rabbit. And Harvey was the inspiration for Donnie Darko, and some other films like Jojo Rabbit.
Oh yeah.
So anytime you see a rabbit as an imaginary friend in a film, it's inspired by Harvey, and um, even the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit references Harvey, which is funny because in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that takes place in the mid 40s, and Harvey didn't come out until 1950. But anyway, um, that's a lot of movies, and that's not even, counting the ones where, the characters talk to, you know, spiritual beings like Sixth Sense or some of the others.
Carl, he said, I counseled a lady who had at least 3 personalities, one of them male. She would wake up with nails in her pocket, in the pocket of her nightgown, and come out and find that she built shelves during the night.
I am not trying to downplay any sort of personalities, but if I could build stuff in my sleep like that, that would be fantastic.
I can't even convince my husband to build stuff for me. Can I get this woman's number?
See,
no,
here's the secret to that, Willow. While he's gone one day, get rid of all of the video games.
Oh my god.
We don't want her to be murdered, Johnny.
No. We just tell him that you get them back when you build the shelves.
I don't think that's going to go over the way you think it's going to go over. Yep, nope. Mm-mm. I feel like if I did that to my son or my husband,
there would be a psychotic break. I'm sure of it.
Like, I don't even question their playing of the video games anymore. I just automatically assume that that's what they're doing in their downtime. And if I am to disturb that, I don't think that would go. No. So honestly, my husband and my son, the second I say, hey, it's time to get off the games, or we got to go do something, or hey, honey, can you do this? They do it. But I have seen some videos of people that all their mom did was say, hey, get off the video game and go do your chore, and then you can have some more game time. And they literally, like, destroyed their entire house.
Had to come apart. Yeah.
Like, I was watching a lady on, I think it was YouTube or something like that the other day, and all she did was tell her son that he needed to do something. He broke everything in her house. He broke the game system. He broke the TVs. He tore apart all of their bedrooms, and like, I don't know. So I don't think my family would do that, but people out there actually do that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that happen.
Willow, this is a great suggestion from Carl Witzman. You need to start building the shelves, but do it wrong. He will show you how it's really done.
You know, my husband keeps telling me that he wants to teach me how to use the saw downstairs and stuff like that. Like, we actually have a woodworking thing, like working stuff downstairs, and he wants me to learn how to use some of that stuff. If I were to go on YouTube and learn how to use it, and I think he would be hurt that he didn't teach me.
Well, what are you waiting for?
On it. So I'm the one that teaches my husband woodworking stuff. Little known fact: Keisha does woodworking. So I've made little bowls. I've made spoons. I make my own frames for my artwork, that kind of stuff. And people don't know that about me, but yeah, I do things
Huh.
like that. Weird things.
You're a Renaissance woman.
I'm a
See,
weird.
and that's just it. Like I have told, I had told Joe several times that we should like start making stuff out of the wood that we have in our basement and in our garage, sell this stuff at conventions, and he's like, oh no, no, not something that I'm interested in. And it's like, dude, we have two creative minds here that that need to work together.
Well, just start doing it.
So, you know what? I have the time. Why not?
You know what
But-
would be really funny is if you take just pieces of wood and paint them as characters, like just flat, straight pieces of wood, and then just put googly eyes on them. I'll bet you could sell a ton of those. Googly eye X-Men boards.
No, you just name them Plank and pretend it's from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. So, for those of you that have not seen Ed, Ed, and Eddie, it is a children's show that probably broke my youth. I still make references to that show on a weekly basis. But Plank was just a piece of wood with a face drawn on it that this little boy carried around, and it was his best friend. So yeah, just call it Plank, put a face on
And
it, and sell them.
that totally fits with the theme of the show. You
Yeah.
know, an imaginary friend that he created.
All the way back to the beginning. And
Gotta bring it back
Another-
somehow, guys.
Another pop culture reference. Like this is stuff that I didn't realize that it was prevalent in my childhood. And yeah, wow, I'm surprised that I didn't realize that there was this much reference to pop culture with Invisible Friends.
By the way, Willow, Eli Cash says, "Do it." Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been Eli's word recently. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to mean, but anyway.
Speaking of references, my brain just had a weird flashback. I don't know if this ties in or not, but it was a movie that I watched when I was a kid, and a girl didn't have any friends, and so she imagined her Barbie turning into a human, and she was like BFFs with her life-size Barbie. I don't know what it was, but
Sorry, did that come out in the last 5 years or?
no, I'm talking like the 90s.
Okay. Because there was that one show about the sex doll coming to life.
Well,
What kind of movies are you watching, honey?
yeah. So I was going to reference the 1980s classic Mannequin.
Oh.
Does that count as like an imaginary?
Well,
Since it was technically just a doll that came to life to give.
it was medallion that allowed her to come to life, or a necklace.
Okay, do you remember what it was then?
Are you talking about Mannequin?
Yeah.
No,
It-
it was a little kid's. Mine was a little
Oh.
kid's movie.
No.
It did have Tyra Banks in it. Dawn, thank you, because she was the doll.
Oh, okay. I think I know what movie you are talking about.
Yeah,
I
would
was
that
not the demographic for that movie, so I never saw it.
So would that be considered an imaginary friend since technically it was a doll that came to life?
Yes. Dolls don't come to life.
Are you sure? My daughter.
I think if we put it, if we go down that road, Chucky
Mm.
is an imaginary friend or an imaginary villain.
I like Chucky.
You
Those
would,
shows bring me joy.
of course.
I need a nap. You guys, there is a balloon over in the corner just slowly floating halfway up the stairs.
Is it a Chinese surveillance balloon?
No, it's green. I think it has Spider-Man on it or the Hulk. I can't tell. I don't have my glasses on.
Well, whatever you do, don't shoot it down because you may accidentally disperse some biochemical weapon.
I just feel like that situation could have been handled with a drone and a giant giant bag.
You guys take the fun out of it. So, I was so enthralled in what my people call real life that I didn't even know there was a drone going on. And that night I got on social media and I see all these posts and all these warnings and people posting videos and photos of the drone, whatever balloon thingy it was, and I was like, apparently I missed something.
Yes, it was a big news story this week. Dan Hollyfield says if mannequin count, so does Weird Science. One of my all-time favorite comedies, and Carl Witzman agrees. Weird Science, yes. And Eli T. Cash reminds us that Ink Blood, starring Brendan Fraser, wielding and summoning imaginary characters from literature. You remember when they read the story, it came to life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I know what that show was about.
Aaron Houghton says, hello, I caught you all live. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for joining us. We're about to be
Welcome
not
to the
live.
show. For the next 2 minutes, welcome to the show.
Oh wow, is that the time already?
Yeah. And I don't feel like we've come to any conclusions or submitted any firm evidence for anything, which is kind of how this show goes, right?
We just like to talk about this stuff. They're if there was supposed to be a conclusion, we would have had Carl on the show.
Well, Carl would just say, all of this is a bunch of hooey, forget about it and go on about your lives. And yet, he tunes in every week. It's like, I don't know. It's like,
well,
I don't know
maybe
how to
we
describe
should.
that.
Maybe we should ask Dolores how her stick friend is doing.
I think she kicked it underneath my desk or something a while back. It's probably still under there.
I think Dolores is talking to an imaginary friend right now.
Right here.
And deposited it on your lap.
I'm so glad I'm having another child because the first two were just great. So I was like, I need a third.
You need someone to keep Dolores busy.
Now, here's my question, Keisha. How old is your son?
13.
Where is he right now?
So he's actually my stepson. Me and my
Okay.
husband got married when he was 1 year old.
Okay.
So we do not have full custody of him. We only have him once throughout the week and then every other weekend. And every other major holiday and birthday, that kind of stuff. So I don't have him full time. Or else I would love that, honestly. But my favorite thing is the dynamic between the children already. Because last week when we had him, they tortured each other the entire time they were there. They tortured each other.
And that's a good thing?
But then, at the end of the night, when it was time to go, he hugged her so hard, and then she got into the car and she said, I really want James back. I miss him. And I was like, y'all just spent the entire time literally torturing each other, throwing things at each other's heads, making each other fall over, beating each other with noodles. And I don't understand children.
You know what? That sounds exactly like the relationship between my two dogs.
Oh,
That's accurate. I feel like that's accurate, yeah.
Yep.
So I have zero. Oh, let's not take my clothes off on air. So
Everyone just perked up.
Carl's been perked the whole time. No. So I feel like I have no hope for the next child. Like, I feel like they're just gonna continue to torture each other no matter anything.
kind of reminds me of the movie Multiplicity.
I have no idea what that is, but
With Michael Keaton, where he learns how to clone himself and make duplicates, and it gets way out of control. Way out of control.
oh, so me having children is cloning my. She does. Ellie, get over here. Show them. Put your face next to mine.
Wait. Carl wants to get that screenshot right there of Keisha having her clothes torn off.
Oh.
Children. Oh.
All right. So I guess we should probably
Anyway.
end the show before it gets complicated even more.
While it's still PG.
Johnny, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Tell us what you have planned for this coming week.
Well, so I thought I was going to be training a new Ghost Walk tour guide this week. We hired him. We started working on the schedule, and he resigned.
Oh.
So that's not going to happen. So I will be leading Nightly Spirits Ghost Tours by myself yet again. Looking for anyone in the Middle Tennessee area that is watching. If you want to make some solid money telling stories and sometimes drinking adult beverages, send me a message. My website is right there, johnpica.com. Other than that, check me out hosting Back of the Cereal Box here on the Cereal Box Network. We're the flagship show that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays of our youth while surviving adulthood today. cerealboxpodcast.com. And that would be phenomenal. Check it out. And this Saturday, Willow, we're gonna be talking about Tom and Jerry from Saturday mornings. Tom and Jerry.
Nice.
We're gonna be D. Barty is going to do a live taste test of the Sour Patch Kids Candy Pops popcorn.
Okay.
That's going to be great TV. You guys just you're going to have to tune in. And we have a very...
Wait. Don't forget Willet cereal.
That's going to be in March.
Okay.
When we're in the same place and I can force her to taste test it. That's an important thing because virtually she can fake it or she could refuse and there's nothing I can do. But when we're together, she can't refuse. The peer pressure is too much for her to handle, and I exploit that. I'm not too proud to say that, but and we're gonna have a special guest all the way from Scotland, James Scott, who is one of our regular viewers. He's in the audience every week. He is in the States for the Super Bowl, covering it for his podcast, the Across the Pond Sports Network. And he's going to be on our show this Saturday morning as well. So we're super, super excited about that. So we have a question here, though. Aaron Houghton, is D is Barty eating Cinefuego Toast Crunch again. No, she will never eat it again. If you saw that episode, she about gagged live on air. It was brilliant. It was so funny. And that's the kind of energy I want to create for Dee. That's, the kind of experience I want to give her and our audience. So
The
tune
fact
in this
that-
Saturday.
The fact that she allows you to torture her in that way.
Well, it's like
it says a
Keisha's
lot
kids,
about
right?
friendship that you guys have.
Anyway, so that's this Saturday. Tune in to Back of the Cereal Box. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Keisha, what do you have? Oh, by the way, congratulations on winning second place in your chili cook-off.
Yeah. So I did a chili cook-off for those of you that don't follow me on social medias. I did a chili cook-off literally on a whim yesterday. I made it yesterday morning and I was like, I guess I'm doing a chili cook-off. It was completely vegan and it was a blind taste test. Mine got second place. There was 8 other contestants that entered. Mine got second place and nobody could tell that it was vegan.
Nice.
So I was very proud of myself because
Okay,
apparently-
so are we gonna have? Are you gonna post the ingredients of your
so I have
chili
no
on your
idea
page?
what I put in there, honestly. So I'm one of those people that I just cook with my heart. There is literally I feel like I said literally a lot this episode. Sorry, guys. A jar of homemade canned pizza sauce that I canned up a couple weeks ago in the sauce that I made for the chili because I didn't have any just diced tomatoes and I didn't want to thaw out any of the tomatoes in my freezer. So I opened up a can of the tomato sauce and I threw it in there along with poblano pepper, green pepper, because I had to use them up because they were in my fridge. It had pea protein, it had garlic, it had like 4 cups of vegetable broth. The chilies that were in there, as well as half of the veggies that I put in there, were veggies that I grew in my own garden and I preserved. So I was very proud that like most of the food that I had preserved or made went into something that actually tasted good. So
Awesome. So what do you have planned for this week?
probably too much. So I finally, for those of you that did not watch the last episode, the hospital that I was going to shut down, and I did not have an OB, but I finally found an OB. I don't get to meet the OB yet, but on the 9th I get to go for my anatomy. I love Carl's comment. So I get to go for my anatomy scan on the 9th. I don't actually get to meet my doctor because they're so backed up with since the hospital closed, there's so many new patients going everywhere that they don't have any openings for like months. So I still get to go see I get to go see the baby because the anatomy scan is done by a technician rather than the doctor. So I don't technically have a doctor yet, but I get to see the baby on the 9th. So I'm hoping.
Okay. Let's put this out there. We need Keisha needs a doula. If anybody knows, if anybody knows a doula or someone who can help
Preferably
birth her baby at home, so that
You
she
know-
doesn't have to drive that long of a way for the hospital.
Or maybe you move.
Ooh, you have no idea how much crap I own.
I have an idea. Carl Witzman, by the way, we got to read this comment for those who are just listening. Carl Witzman said Keisha made Midwesterners eat vegan chili and they liked it. That's paranormal right there.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
I
Yes, it is.
won a cash prize.
Why am I picturing the picnic scene of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark? Google that scene, everybody. I'm not going into details. That's not for prime time. Anyway, so yeah, awesome. Hopefully, we can find you a doula and get the baby born at home.
Side note,
So,
you can find me by Googling or searching my name, Acuff Creations, Keisha Acuff. I'm literally everywhere. Willow, how about you?
what do I have planned this week? Well, I'm throwing out my resume and revamping the whole thing.
I like it.
Yeah, after
Send
reading
it to me and I'll help you. I go
After-
through thousands of resumes and hire thousands of people every year.
Awesome. I'll keep that in mind. I opened my email today and I got bombarded by the whole thank you for applying to this position. We're looking for someone else. I swear I got like 5 or 6 emails like that. I'm just like, okay, nope, that there's definitely an issue with my resume. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. Trying to find myself a new job, and at the same time, maybe even starting up a new podcast. We'll see. I definitely want to bring Willow's Pillow Talk back.
Well, and look, I gave you the green light to do the cat show.
Yeah. I just
Oh,
couldn't
sure.
think of a good name.
The cat show. Let's
That
just
is
call
not
it
what I
what
would
it
call
is.
Oh, you know another word for cat?
All right, it's time to go.
All right, you guys.
Bye.
You guys can
Bye,
find
Ellie.
me all over social media. I am the social media socialite. So you can find Johnny at the back of the cereal box and Keisha all over social media as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. And yeah, if you're seeing, if you see us outside of our social media or whatever, there's a good chance that we could be your imaginary friends. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.